get that. Even the most hopeless of circumstances, this story shows us. It shows us we can expect God to provide what we need when we need it the most. The Lord, though, is more than capable and more than able than just providing a way out of our challenging situations. We can expect God to provide for our basic needs. We can expect God to provide for our basic needs. Turn over to Nehemiah chapter 9. We're going to look at 2 verses in Nehemiah. We're going to look at chapter 9, verse 15. Then we're going to look at verse 21. We can expect God to provide for our basic needs. You gave them bread from heaven for their hunger, and brought them water out of the rock for their thirst, and told them to go in to possess the land which you had sworn to give them. We can expect God to provide our basic needs, as I shared earlier, the young lady who says, yeah, we can expect food, we can expect clothes, we can expect water. Our basic needs. See, today we think our basic needs includes a BMW, it includes a McMansion, it includes cable or satellite, it includes, indoor plumbing. It includes things that we take for granted. The way we live compared to the other 95% of the world, we have no idea what basic needs means. I was on a pastor's prayer group yesterday, and they were sharing about, we're having some discussion in the church about getting air conditioning put in. We got a nice AC. Got replaced and upgraded last year. More of God's provision. We have a place to meet. More of God's provision. We have chairs to sit on. Our carpet may be old, but it's carpet. We have nice clean windows now. Seems a little brighter in here today. But that's not our basic needs. First and foremost, we need Jesus Christ. After that, we need food and water. We need clothes. That's where it stops. One of the gentlemen that works for me in my secular job, and I don't overly, I do openly, but not overly, let everyone know I'm a Christian. I let them know that I have another role that I serve. I am blessed and honored to be a pastor. And I'm not shy in talking about my faith or sharing my faith. And this week, this young man who's 28 called me up. His name's Brett. And he said, hey, can I talk to you? Over the past few weeks, he's a newer employee, but we've developed a really good relationship. And he called me up and he said, hey, I need you to pray for me. I said, okay. And he said, my fiance and I, we're going through some tough financial times. I said, Brett, I'll pray for you. I'll pray for you. I said, is it okay? I just downloaded a book, a free ebook about couples managing their financial situation, having tough financial discussions. And he said, can I send this to you? It's a quick read. I'll email it to you. And he said, sure, I'd love that. So I sent him this book, and a couple hours later, I get a phone call, and it's Brett again. He goes, you're not going to believe this. And I said, okay, what's going on? I said, which role are we talking about here? VP or pastor? Clue me in. What am I not going to believe? He said, I went out to lunch. And he goes, I got there, and this was the one day I didn't pack my lunch. I had to go, and I needed to get lunch because I had to hurry back to the office. And he said, I got to where, I was getting ready to pay, and the lady said, it's been taken care of for you. He said, wait a minute. What do you mean? This meal's been taken care of for you. He said, but he had apparently gone through the drive-thru. He said, there was nobody around. He goes, it's not like the person in front of me paid for me. He goes, Dale, I don't know how to respond. Nobody knew I was going there. Nobody knew that I would be at this place at this time. And yet the lady kept saying, no, your meal has been taken care of. All I can say is amen, Brett. God provides. Here's this young man struggling, and I did talk to him. I said, well, sometimes the smartest thing is when you're struggling for money is not to go out for lunch. He said, but I didn't have a choice in this situation. I said, okay, I get it. But through him going out, he was blessed. And he started to see, and he said, I'm going to really take a look at that book. Verse 21. Verse 21 says, 40 years you sustained them in the wilderness. They lacked nothing. Their clothes did not wear out, and their feet did not swell. Think about that. Have you ever heard anybody say they just don't make them like they used to? Boy, they don't make them like they used to if you got clothes that are lasting for 40 years. And shoes that are lasting for 40 years. And it's not like you're just sitting around and having this stuff put up someplace and stored. They were wearing the stuff for 40 years. I bought some nice clothes in my life. Nothing's ever lasted me 40 years. And I guarantee you, I don't fit in the same clothes I did 20 years ago. So there was enough provision for guys like me that may have expanded a little bit. The point I want you to look at this and to see, we may live in a throwaway society where nothing lasts anymore. But we serve Jesus Christ, who is not a throwaway God. He lasts forever and ever. Expecting God to meet our basic needs here on earth is one thing. But what about when we die? You know what? God's got that one covered too. Now, turn all the way into the back of your Bible. Look at Revelation. And we're going to look at Revelation 21, and we're going to look at verses 1 through 5. And I'm going to get really expositional here. We're going to expose the text and see what this says. Revelation 21, 1 through 5. I'm going to turn there with you. I've got some pages rustling here. I love hearing people turn through their Bible. I'm not even going to read it out of my notes because this is so beautiful. I want to read this out of his word. It says, now this is John. Listen to this. Now I saw a new heaven and a new earth. God's provision. Note that. God's provision. New heaven, new earth. He's given us a new heaven, new earth. God's given that to us. For the first heaven and the first earth had passed away. Guess what? They only lasted for so many thousand years. He built one that's going to last forever. Also, there was no more sea. Whoa. No more water? Isn't that a basic need? Guess what? He's got that covered too. We're not going to need water anymore because we will have the living water. Amen. That's beautiful. That's God's provision. Then I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem. Provision. Coming down out of heaven from God. Provision. Prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. Anybody here ever been to a wedding? You ever watched the bride walk down the aisle? What do? Everybody stops and they get up and they turn around and they watch this beautiful bride adorned in glory walking down the aisle to meet the groom. In this case, Jesus is the groom. And we get to be the spectators and the bystanders, just like at the wedding, watching this beautiful bride. This new city that's being provided for you and for me coming down. That's provision. And it goes on. And I heard a loud voice from heaven saying, behold, the tabernacle of God is with men. Provision. And He will dwell with them. Provision. And they shall be His people. Provision. God Himself will be with them and be their God. Provision. There is nothing more exciting than to be with God. But it gets better. It gets even better. Watch this. And God will wipe away every tear from their eyes. No more tears. There shall be no more death. Provision. Nor sorrow, provision. Nor crying, provision. There shall be no more pain, provision. For the former things have passed away. These verses are covered in God's provision. If this doesn't excite you, I don't know what will. Because this gets me excited. I want to go to heaven. I want to be with my God. I got a lot more sermons to go, though. I got a lot more people to witness to and share the gospel. I got a lot more disciples to train up. I've got a lot more baptisms to perform. But I know God will provide for me. And it finishes up in verse 5. Then he who sat on the throne, behold, I make all things new. Provision. And he said to me, write, for these words are true and faithful. Provision. He provides truth. How many of us today can depend on truth? Guess what? His word is true and faithful. That's provision. See, God's got this life covered, and He's got the next life covered. We can expect God to provide a place to spend eternity. Expecting God's provision is a wonderful assurance to a believer. You know the song, Blessed Assurance? This is it. Knowing what to do with God's provision, though, that's the key to honoring what the Lord has provided. That's the key. I want to share with you 3 things. What you must do with God's provision. What you must do with God's provision. You need to mimic God's provision. You need to mimic it. You don't want to mimic, copy, imitate. 1 Timothy 5:8 says, but if anyone does not provide for his own, and especially for those of his household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. Well, that's calling somebody out. If you can't provide for your own, you are worse than an unbeliever. I didn't think anything could be worse than an unbeliever. You're going to be separated from God. But in this case, the Bible is clear. It says you are worse than an unbeliever. What does that look like? Don't be selfish. Time, money, food, whatever God has given you, whatever talents. If He has given you the gift of music, you better be using it for Him. If He's given you excess resources, whether it's money or land or whatever, you better be using it for Him. Maybe He's given you some other talent. He's given you the ability to teach. You better be teaching. Maybe He's given you the ability to preach. You better be preaching. Maybe He's given you the ability to pray. You better be praying. And not just for yourself, for others. He's given you something. You are to use it for His glory. Because guess what? He's already given the provision. You are to copy Him. You know what this also means? As a form of family, this includes your church. I've preached very little on tithing and giving and offering. But I'm going to tell you right now, if God has given you resources, you are to give it back to His church. This is part of your family. And if you are withholding from your family, you are worse than an unbeliever. I didn't say it. Don't get mad at me. But I must preach it. Second thing you want to do is witness for Him. You must witness for Him. Carl brought it up earlier today during praise and prayer request time. Luke 21, 10 through 19. Then He said to them, nation will rise against nation. We seeing that today? And kingdom against kingdom. Yep, we're seeing that. And there will be great earthquakes in various places. Seeing that. And famines and pestilences. Yeah, we're seeing that too. And there will be fearful sights and great signs from heaven. Imagine that. But before all these things, they will lay their hands on you and persecute you. It's coming. Delivering you up to the synagogues and prisons. It's coming. You will be brought before kings and rulers for my name's sake. It's coming. But it will turn out for you as an occasion for testimony. Therefore, settle it in your hearts not to meditate beforehand on what you will answer. This is it. This is where it gets good. Pay attention. For I will give you a mouth and wisdom which all your adversaries will not be able to contradict or resist. Witness for him.